of the secret. He's very shy on camera, so he tends to fly off. Hola, ¿cómo estás world? I'm back for another video, and this video will be a continuation speaking about the prophetic. I haven't been speaking much about how to operate in it, and I'm going to give you a few steps now. First of all, I like to put an acronym to how to begin to work within the prophetic gifting. So there are 3 letters in the acronym RIA, RIA. 1. R. R stands for revelation. Now, when you first get a prophetic picture, you could get a word of knowledge and inkling in yourself. You can even feel. So basically, all the senses in the physical realm you could use as members to righteousness, and you can use those members to help you out to determine a revelation by using the physical members, physical senses, such as eyesight, such as smells, such as sounds, hearing, and even feeling certain things, feeling heat on certain parts of your body where you might feel a certain person has an issue in that area. It could be like, I feel a heat on my right shoulder, so that could be that someone has busted ligaments there, or something like that. I've experienced that before, so I usually see pictures. I usually see physical pictures, or actually feel heat around my body, or even an inkling as well. So just the same as we can use those senses to see and view the world around us, the physical world, we can use those in the spiritual sense to sense the spiritual world, the supernatural. You can get revelation in those types of ways. There could be even more that I haven't listed either. So I'll give a physical example of what's happened before. I had this picture for this certain girl, and I saw a carousel, and I saw her younger, and she was walking hand in hand with a man that I believe was her dad, and they were walking hand in hand towards this carousel, and then it switched to a different picture of her already riding the carousel around and around, and she was pointing at her dad, and she was saying, "Look at me, Daddy, look at me," all happy and in the moment. I believe she was around 5 years old in this picture. So that is an example of a revelation, the letter R. So the next letter of the acronym is I. The I represents interpretation. So after you receive a revelation, such as a picture, or you hear something, or you feel something, you usually should ask God for an interpretation of that revelation. You see this mostly throughout the Bible, where prophets, such as Ezekiel, such as Nehemiah and Jeremiah, they would get a revelation from God. The word of the Lord came to them, or they would be swept up in a vision, and then they would actually communicate with God and ask God what this meant, or God would ask them to ask Him. So interpretation comes usually after the revelation. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes the person that you're giving the prophecy to receives it and knows the interpretation already. In the scenario I gave you earlier, I received this picture, this revelation, but I didn't receive the interpretation of it. But basically, once I've released that and shared it with her, even though I didn't receive an interpretation, she gathered what I was speaking about, and she let me know that it was a very personal situation where the last time that she ever got to spend time with her father, her physical father, was around 5 years old at an amusement park. So she interpreted that revelation for herself. So, interpretation, when you do receive it from God, usually you ask Him, or sometimes He even shows you straight away afterwards. You just receive it. Usually the first inkling, the first depiction of it is correct one. That's another rule that you should remember about giving prophetic words, is that usually the first feel to it is usually the voice of God. So after interpretation comes the A. A stands for application. So the whole point of the prophetic gifting, the prophetic words given to individuals, is to encourage them to go deeper into their calling with God, and to encourage them in a current situation or a future situation or event. So A, the application, is very important towards the whole reason for giving a specific word to someone. So after I've received the revelation, I've interpreted or may have not, you often get the application towards what the purpose was. So the purpose of the word I've given that young girl about the Father and everything was to reveal, because at the time she wasn't a Christian, to reveal to her the Father's heart, God's heart towards her, that He knows her personally, He knows what she's gone through, He's been there with her through the loss of her father and through everything, and just to reveal to her His heart towards her, the perfect Father's heart. So that was the application. It wasn't necessarily to do anything instructive, to do anything specific, but it was more so to encourage her to go deeper in God. So that should be all that I can tell you about prophecy at this time. Just remember Ria, revelation, interpretation, and application, and then use that as a guide towards giving a prophetic word when you don't know exactly how to go about it. And you should do an amazing job. God's going to use you, and I know that God's is so keen to encounter the lost more than we are keen for Him to encounter them. So be encouraged, and I hope this video has been informative for you guys to move into the prophetic and to help those that need encouragement and uplifting. See you later.